Time for the market report. Looks like the honeymoon's over. Prices dropping back down.
At least in ag commodities, seems reality set back in and prices back to where they were 2 weeks ago. We'll get into it, but first, the numbers. What were the week's biggest gains and losses? And then, an ag expert goes into detail on what the economy looks like this year and what you can think about pushing forward to 2025. So, markets closed the week down, a sea of red overall, with one exception. Livestock and row crops all affected. Seems prices stabilizing post-election hangover. Let's take a look. The week's only gain, lumber up $15 and over 2.5% increase from the previous week. The week's biggest loss, wheat, down 35.5 cents, a near 6.25% decrease from the previous week. This week, we take another look into how prices have affected the farmer this year. If you've been watching, you know, not good. And how has that affected selling? Well, according to extension expert Dr. Steve Martin, we've had trouble selling last year's crop due to low prices, and it seems this year's crop will have the same issue.
It turned out to be an expensive year, and we've looked at some of that over the summer. Our costs, as we know, the whole economy over the last 2 or 3 years, a lot of inflation, high interest rates, and so that's translated into the things we buy as producers. And hard stuff like tractors and combines, fixed cost, up about 27-30%, on average across all the things we use. And then our we refer to as variable costs, what it costs to put the crop in. They're up to maybe actually a little bit better this in 24 than they were in 2023, just from a fuel standpoint. So fuel is a little cheaper, which also translates into cheaper fertilizer prices if you're growing a crop, corn or cotton or something like that uses a lot of fertilizer, rice, whatever. But as we all know, irrigation costs were up. Some people, I think, all the water their crop got, they spent on irrigation. So, and then we got toward the end of the summer and prices went down for all the crops. It looked like we had big crops across the whole U.S. and not a lot of demand there for some of those crops. So things were looking pretty tight. Still are. I think maybe we'll survive some of that with our yields, but we need some things to go right, going forward. A lot of uncertainty out there. We were supposed to have a new farm bill for 2024. So we still don't have it farm bill. There's some opportunities there maybe to get that done before this next crop goes in the ground, but a lot of the farm policy payments are lagged a year because they tie them to the price of the crop. So the crop that we grew this year, we'll sell between now and the time we harvest next year's crop. So payments for the 2024 crop won't be here until the fall of 25. Payments on that wouldn't be till on over in late 2026. So a lot of uncertainty there that folks got to deal with as they make decisions going into 2025. If you look at things that come out of Washington in terms of payments for whatever, and it seems like there's an unlimited supply of money up there, but there's a cap on spending for the farm bill. So anything that is done to improve one or the other has to be taken away from some other part of it. So that's kind of a depressing part of dealing with that. It'd be nice if that was adjusted some kind of way where there was some additional money, and it'd be a lot of money if you or I had it in our pocket, but in the whole scheme of the U.S. budget, that's a very small part. Think about 2025 or any other year, you got two things to consider. You got what it costs to produce a crop and what you can sell it for. On the price side, 2024 was it's really all over the board nationwide and not sold, last year's corn crop. So in this year, we had people who hadn't sold 23 crop. There were opportunities early 2024 to sell $5 corn at $5.20, I think, is where the board highest it was on the December 24 contract early in this year. That's all hindsight. That's easy to say, I should have sold everything back then. You can't really blame producers for doing that, again, because you don't book your whole crop, for one, and second, we're looking at prices lower than what we had been used to. Downside of that going into 2025 is right now there's not those type of opportunities. We've got till mid 2026 to sell this 25 crop. So there's opportunities there, no guarantees, but opportunities for price improvement. One of the things marketing economists have said since I was an undergraduate is know your cost of production. And I really didn't understand that for a long time, even after I got to be an economist, because what your cost of production is really doesn't have any effect on the market. You know, we're price takers is what the market does. But knowing what that price, that cost of production is, gives you opportunity, especially in times like this when things are tight, to know, hey, if I book $11 beans, I could make a little money. I may not book my whole crop, but I'm gonna lock some in at a profit. So knowing your cost of production is an important part.
And that's it for a deeper look into the markets. Seems farmers can't really catch a break price-wise with some slight rallies here and there.